and we have Coach John Combs from Spring Valley here with us today. And Coach, this is a special episode because we're now talking basketball, girls and boys. Thank you for coming on the show to help us preview the season for both girls and boys basketball in South Carolina.
Steve, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited. I mean, basketball season's here. We're starting games on Friday. It's on. When basketball season's here, I know football season's winding down. Still a lot to be determined there, but just thank you for having me on talking a little hoops.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody who knows South Carolina athletics, they know that South Carolina gets slept on nationally on basketball. Every year, I mean, we got a ton of talent in this state. I mean, shoot, Ja Morant from Crestwood is kind of exploded into his professional career and, in college. And we have great basketball in this state that oftentimes doesn't get enough credit because football and basketball and baseball have that kind of that I guess reputation nationally more so, but the basketball in this state is really good. And we're going to be doing more of this on the Four Quarter Friday show. We got to create a new theme song for winter sports coming up. The gridiron play is almost done, but we are really thankful and grateful to partner with the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association, and through that partnership is going to allow us to create even more coverage for the athletic teams and programs in the state that don't get that coverage yet in this medium. And so we're kind of trying to forge a path for those teams and for those programs, and we're excited about doing that. We got a new look for you. So, Coach, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about you first, like what gives you the credibility to come on and speak for the whole state of South Carolina. What's your career path been like?
Now, I would tell you, if you would have led me off with that part, I probably would have declined to speak because I don't always like to speak for the whole state when it comes to that. But basketball is something that's always been a passion of mine. I went to Irmo High School. I graduated in 1994. We were so good that year. I was a student manager. I couldn't even make the basketball team. Well, part of that, when I was at Irmo, as a senior, B.J. Mackey was a junior who went on to obviously play at Carolina. That year we went 31-3, won a state championship. I think we ended up, it was the 18th or 19th in the nation by USA Today at the time. But I just loved the game of basketball. And from there on, I went on to be a student manager at the University of South Carolina. I was there for 4 years under Coach Eddie Fogler, and then basically a graduate assistant for another 3. And then after that, I've been in high school basketball since 2001, at the high school level, whether it be at Spring Valley High School, Silver Bluff, Ridgeview, Ben Lippen, Westwood. And now for the past 2 years, and I'm in my 3rd year now as the athletic director at Spring Valley High School, but I've also poured a lot of heart and passion into our South Carolina Basketball Coaches Association. I've worked with the Basketball Coaches Association probably since the early 2000s, somewhere in there. And, basketball is just it's a passion of mine. Even though I'm an athletic director now, I'm not coaching full time. It's something, like I said, it's still a passion of mine. And so I'm not going to sit there and claim that I know any more than any other people, but I do invest a lot of time in it. And this is a topic, girls and boys basketball in South Carolina, I am very passionate about. Because, people shouldn't sleep on us. I know last year in the Carolinas Classic All-Star game, the little old South Carolina was able to beat big, bad North Carolina and the guys in that particular game with a lot of really good players. And, I think we maybe are slept on a little bit, but I think we're a basketball state. And people might say, basketball, this is a football state. Well, can't we be both? Can't we be a football state and a basketball state? We're arguably got the state with the best, I don't even know if it's arguably, but the best women's basketball program, the University of South Carolina. South Carolina hosts the Nike Peach Jam, which is probably the best AAU tournament that's out there. We have high level of events here. So with high level players, Zion Williamson, you mentioned Ja Morant. Mm-hmm. Those are just some of the few. So I'm excited. Kevin Garnett. Yeah, absolutely. I still remember I had an opportunity when I was at the University of South Carolina to help we helped host Kevin Garnett on an official visit. It was one of his only official visits at in college back in the day, and that was a wild time. So that was fun. So no, we've had some really good basketball here in South Carolina.
That's right, and I will back you up. This Coach Combs is credible because, hey, did you just hear his background? I mean, you talking about blue bloods over here. You know, Eddie Fogler, Coach Whipple, right at Irmo, coached you. One of the all-time greats, has a great coaching tree, along with Coach Bailey Harris, has an amazing coaching tree too from my alma mater, Lexington High School. And then I reached out to Scott Early, the executive director for the Coaches Association. I said, hey, I want to do a basketball preview show. Who's the best person to talk to? And without any hesitation, he was like, it was Coach Combs. So, like, we're having the best person to be able to help us talk about this statewide. And I know there's even more quality candidates to come onto the show later to talk about basketball. And this show will actually kind of start shifting into a general catch everybody up. Hey, what's happened last week? What's coming up next week? Won't be a game by game breakdown necessarily, because there's just going to be too many games to do that. But as we get shifting into the winter sports, girls, boys, basketball, wrestling, we're going to be having a lot more coaches and experts on, like, kind of giving us the lay of the land of what's going on inside of these tournaments that are going to be happening and whatnot. So with all that being said, Coach, let's start digging into these teams. We got rankings out.
Yes.
And rankings are rankings, right? But we have to have something to talk about. This is kind of our roadmap to the conversation. Let's start with the girls.
Okay.
Coach, last year, the state championships, we had Military Magnet as the single A champion. 2A, we had Andrew Jackson. 3A, Walhalla. 4A, North Augusta. 5A Division II Berkeley, and then 5A Division I Blythewood. And if I go to the rankings for this year, let's just start off with 1A. Military Magnets ranked number 1, Lee Central 2, Latta 3, Hunter Connor Tyler 4, Williston Elko 5, North 6, Denmark Olar is 7, C.A. Johnson 8, Bamberg Earhart 9, and Scotch Branch 10. This is 1A doesn't get enough coverage. That's why I like to start with 1A. Tell us about some of these teams, some of the coaches. Give us some of the players to look out for if you had some of those that we should be looking out for this season.
Well, you know, I think with 1A girls right now, Military Magnet, I mean, I think they've got to be the odds-on favorite to repeat in 1A. I'm sure Lee Central, Latta, HKT, and some of those others might have a little something to say with it, but that's the great thing, you know, about athletics. Coach Nathaniel Taylor of Military Magnet does a phenomenal job there. You know, as a 1A school, they're a smaller school, but he is year in and year out in the past number of years, they've been right up there. And I certainly wouldn't bet against him. He's got a young lady as a senior, Denaria Williams, who's a phenomenal basketball player. Like, just, you know, Coach Taylor's one of our board members on the SCBCA board, and you could just tell why their team is good, because a lot that he pumps into them. And of course, you see I think of, you know, Lee Central's a blue blood, that they're always in there with basketball. You know, they've got a young lady, Macaria Holmes. I hope I didn't mispronounce her name. That, you know, when you hear Holmes, the last name Holmes, a lot of times I do think of Lee Central and some really good basketball players there. Naomi House from McBee is really good, and Kaylin Parks from North. Kaylin Parks is a phenomenal basketball player. You know, North has got a lot to be proud of as well. So, you know, you never know how things go. You know, one injury could change things. But I tell you what, Military Magnet's going to be awfully hard to beat this year.
And for those who don't know, Coach, where is Military Magnet?
The Charleston area.
That's Charleston area. Okay.
I'm glad I knew that one. I was a little nervous. You might start asking some of these other ones. I do know that. And then, like I said, they're right there. Like I said, Coach Taylor, phenomenal job.
Yeah, and a lot of those magnet schools with the name in magnet in the name of the school are in the Charleston area. Coach, in your opinion, or what you have known throughout the years, what is the toughest region typically in 1A high school girls basketball? Typically,
Oh, I think that's now you're asking a really, really good question that if I even took a guess, I would offend somebody unless like, um, you know, the region Denmark-Olar's is always really, really difficult, but every year it can change
hmm
a great deal.
especially in 1A, right?
Yes, especially in 1A. But gosh, there's 1A doesn't get enough love because there is some really good basketball in there.
Yep. Well, let's go to Class 2A girls rankings. We got Andrew Jackson at 1, Clinton at 2, Lake Marion at 3, Lake City, then Burke, Kingstree, Atlantic Collegiate, and Eau Claire, Blacksburg, and Saluda to finish 8 through 10. And something we're kind of going to hit on, and in a lot of these sports is these schools are doing very well in more than just basketball. You're seeing kind of a culture of a school take form when you start seeing the same teams and the same schools kind of popping in there. Football and baseball and all those other sports are doing well at these schools too. So you got a lot of great athletic directors in the schools in South Carolina helping their coaches get them what they need and supporting them. But what should we know about the Class 2A girls teams this year?
Well, we might this year have so many teams that won a state championship last year to repeat again this year. And I wouldn't put it past Andrew Jackson at all either. Coach Stephen Fair there at Andrew Jackson. I mean, his girls were phenomenal last year. If my memory serves me correctly, they didn't have many close games, especially in the state playoffs. So I certainly would not bet against. Matter of fact, I don't bet, but if I had to bet on somebody to win it this year, I would certainly bet it would be them that were to repeat. Clinton has got a really good basketball team as well. They're preseason number 2. Lake Marion is also solid. Coach Tequila Allen there does a really good job. I mean, but I will tell you, Andrew Jackson's going to be a hard one to get.
Well, like my co-host usually says live on Friday mornings, if you're betting on high school spreads, then the number is calling you. So,
if you're betting on high school anything, you've got some challenges in your life.
That's right. 3A girls, we got a ranking from 1 through 10 as follows: Dillon, St. Joe's, Keenan, Walhalla, Orangeburg Wilkinson, Chapman, Oceanside Collegiate, Woodruff, West Oak, and Southside Christian. Coach, Keenan, I'm looking at that one. That's a famous historical power. They're at number 3. Tell us a little bit about Keenan this year, if you have any information on them.
Well, I will tell you this: out of all the classifications in girls, I will tell you my first thought is this is the one that I'm least convinced about, like as far as who is where in the rankings. Now, I love people when they're confident. There may be a team out there that's screaming, even down there at Southside Christian. I think they've got some really good, they got some talent. They're at number 10. They can probably very easily think we're got a shot at winning this state championship. Now, some of these rankings, you look at Team 10, I was like, they're going to need a lot of help. I think in 3A girls, I mean, it could be anybody, including Keenan. Coach Reggie McLean, who is an SCBCA Hall of Fame member, outstanding coach. And, of course, Dillon is outstanding. St. Joseph's got some outstanding players. This is the one I kind of feel right now is up for grabs. I think there's a lot of quality there. And I'm waiting to see, like, I know West Oak's got some really good players. I mean, there's a lot of really Orangeburg Wilson, Cedric Simpson, the AD there, does a really good job as well. Walhalla, I mean, Walhalla is the one that, they won it all last year. Mm-hmm. Although it took me that long to get them. They lost a lot from last year. They were 3A state champions. They were really good. They lost a lot. Now they got a young lady back that's really, really good. So I still think that they've got a chance to repeat. but I do think this one might be a little bit more wide open.
I love it. I love it when, like, we're looking at that in football right now. Like, when the brackets came out, I was like, golly, I mean, we're doing this fun little bracket pool challenge, like almost like an NCAA, but it's challenging because you got 6 classifications in South Carolina. And so it took me some time to figure out how we could do it, but I figured it out. But like right now, there's so many classifications that you could see 4, 5, 6 different teams potentially winning it. You have to have some good nights. There's no question. But I'd imagine a lot of these coaches, no matter what classification we're talking about, are telling their teams, like, look, these rankings don't mean squat right now. In fact, they're rat poison, as Nick Saban would say, right? So, like, let's play some games. We're about to start on Friday, so it's about to get interesting. 4A, I'm not surprised to see North Augusta at number 1. West Side, South Point, Camden, and Lower Richland finish out the top 5. And then you got Bishop England, Daniel, Blue Ridge, AC Flora, and Gray Collegiate. None of those teams are very surprising. I know there was a young lady at Camden not too long ago that went to play for Dawn. You're going to have to remind me her name. North Augusta, Joyce Evans. Okay. Thank you for that. And by the way, you kind of hit on this a little earlier too. Maybe, as far as the getting slept on in high school or high school basketball in South Carolina. Justin Hall, my co-host, says this all the time. Probably the best athlete to ever come out of South Carolina was a high school girls basketball player named Asia Wilson, of course. So just let that sink in, right? Coach, what are you seeing out of the 4A right here?
This one may be one of the deepest ones out there as far as top-heavy groups. Like North Augusta has been just so dominant recently. But Westside's now led by Coach Jackie Roberts, who is an SCBCA Hall of Famer. She retired from coaching, I think, for a year, maybe 2 years, and now she's back coaching at Westside, and she's got some phenomenal players, there. Khalil Hartwell, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She's one of our elite players who is outstanding. I mean, Westside and North Augusta, they played for the state championship last year, and it was, it's going to be really hard to. I would say North Augusta is maybe the favorite, but I'll tell you what, Westside's really good. And then, South Point's traditionally been fantastic. They're just like they're just so close to being a state championship team. They're a state championship caliber team, but man, it's really good. Of course, Camden's been really good over the past couple of years. And then you got Lower Richland, got a new coach there, Coach Stroman. Back in our state, not the old Coach Stroman, the new Coach Stroman.
Yeah,
that's there. Then we got Bishop England. Bishop England's been a mainstay in girls basketball. We're sitting there putting them as a 6th ranked team in 4A. So this one's really, really deep. And I know Blue Ridge is talented. Gray Collegiate, it does a good job. And AC Flora. I mean, those are 10 high quality teams that, man, only one of those is going to be able to win a state championship.
It's crazy, right? Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to, just close your eyes, put your finger down and just pick, and stop. And maybe that might be the state championship for 4A, right? 5A Division II. Here's how we got it broken down. Berkeley, of course, won it last year. They are ranked number 1 again. Greenwood at 2, Gaffney at 3, Goose Creek, which is another major, consistent power in girls basketball. Greenville at 5. 6 is Fort Mill, North Myrtle Beach, Westwood, Chapin, and Irmo. Fill out the rest of your top 10. We got some coaches changes that I know of. We can talk a little bit more about that coach, but I know Coach Coretta Ferguson has moved from White Knoll and is now over at Irmo, so I know she's excited about her squad going into the season. But how do you see 5A Division II shaking out this year?
I tell you what, those top 2 that you just mentioned, Berkeley and Greenwood. I mean, Berkeley, Coach Crystal Pisa at Berkeley High School, won a state championship last year, and they were phenomenal. They were a lot of fun to watch. And then Greenwood is outstanding as well. Gaffney, Goose Creek, like this is one, like I said, if I had to pick one, I probably would pick Berkeley to repeat, but it is, it is hard to repeat. I mean, because you might have been driven one way one year, then, how did they approach after winning a state championship? Do they have the same hunger over the summer? Not just them, any other team that's competing. In Greenwood, what did they do? They lost in the state championship. Maybe they worked a little harder and got a little bit better in coming back. So this is, I think Berkeley they're going to be awfully tough to beat, but, of course, Goose Creek's going to have their stay. They had some good younger coaches as well. So, Division II, the interesting thing when you have Division II and Division I, two separate state championships, those are some of the ones that are harder to figure out because of the regions are mixed up. So that's where records can get a little goofy, for lack of words, not very comparable, because someone might have dominated a region. Well, they may not have had many Division I opponents, or maybe Division II was a little bit better. Maybe they got beaten up in their region. I mean, there's actually some regions where it's harder to win a region championship than it would be a state championship. And so you think about that, that's pretty nuts to say. But for some sports, that is absolutely the case.
Well, what's interesting too is, obviously when you start comparing like a 5A school and a 1A school, there's that huge difference of student population, and you get more players, at your disposal to make the team. But when it comes to just the game of basketball in general, you only have to have 5 players on that floor, and obviously every coach has got, certain amounts of depth. But, one thing I am interested in, Coach, and we could talk a little bit more about this, is just the styles of play. There's more than one way to play these games, and you can have speed, you can have power. When it comes to, let's say, Berkeley and Greenwood, what are their styles of play? How are those teams built?
Well, Berkeley does, I think, have a lot of speed. Just they're very athletic. Of course, Coach Crystal Peace, she runs a really good program, and it was good to see them win last year. I just really like their speed and athleticism, and I think that's what more and more teams are doing. You're not seeing a ton of teams anymore with the methodical, we're going to pass the ball 20 times before we take a shot mentality. Everybody is different. And, I think some of the best coaches, they figure out a way to adapt, to the talent that they have. Of course, too, now we're in a different age where parents have choice on where they've got more choice than they've ever had about where to send their kid. So what do you create a system that's very methodical, slow, or, that a lot of people don't consider as fun? Or do you create a system where more people play, you're getting up and down, there seems to be more points scored? I mean, there's a lot of hard choices, to make in there. So, the style of play does matter big time. Yeah.
Matchups. It's all about matchups at the end of the day. All right, to finish out, and then we're going to go to a quick commercial break, Coach, is 5A Division I girls team rankings. And we got Blythewood, who won the state championship last year, at ranking number 1. Coach Mack is returning a lot of those players, so it's no surprise to see them ranked number 1. In fact, I think I saw yesterday when Lou Bajak was over at the basketball kickoff event, interview Coach McElveen, and she said, I got to push these kids even harder this year. Can't let them rest on their laurels, so to speak. So, and you got Dorman at 2, Clover at 3, Burns at 4, JL Man 5, Dutch Fork, Lexington, Carolina Forest, Rock Hill, and Ridgeview to finish out the top 10. Obviously, Coach, Blythewood's the heavy favorite here because they're returning so much. But I am curious about my alma mater, and Coach Molly Goodrich does a great job over there. What do you see from the Lexington team this year? This is all my bias coming out. I have a little bit. I have to try to take it out as much as I can. But, I'm not rooting for people necessarily because I love a lot of these teams, and I have relationships all over the place. But it's my alma mater. So what's my squad got coming up this year?
I do know this: if they got Coach Goodrich there, they're going to have a team that is well prepared. Is going to work hard. I don't want to give anybody a label, but they are methodical, and I would certainly say in a good way in how they play. Very disciplined. Coach Goodrich is one of our best basketball coaches we have in our state. And so that's one of those that I know if I was playing in the playoffs, I wouldn't be real excited about playing against them, because that she's going to have them well prepared. And it's not all just about what is the individual talent. You better be ready, because she works really, really hard. And, they're certainly going to be in the mix this year for sure.
Well, throughout the years, Lexington High School has won a lot of basketball games, and a lot of times they're needing to do it through very disciplined teams playing great team basketball defense. And Coach Bailey Harris and his teams were very well known for that. Even when they did have talent, that was something that that's kind of been just the culture of Lexington High School basketball as a whole. Really great team play over there. What else are you seeing in Coach 5A division, Class 5A?
I will tell you what, Blythewood, I think they'll be awfully hard to beat. They were so good last year. I mean, being at Spring Valley, I got to see them twice, unfortunately. And every time I saw them, I became more and more impressed with them. They played so well together. They got two great seniors, Chase Thomas and India Williams, that are phenomenal, play so well together. I mean, but the 5A Division I is so deep. I mean, it really is deep. I mean, Burns High School is really, really good as well. So is Dorman, Clover. I mean, really all of those. There's just some really good talent. Ridgeview High School now is led by Aaron Lucas, former South Carolina guard. It was over at Lower Richland, moved over to Ridgeview. I know he's going to have them playing at a high level. Rock Hill preseason number 9, and I think they've been one of the top 2 or 3 programs in 5A in the past couple of years, and they're still going to be really good. And they're all the way down at number 9. So I think there's a lot of really good teams, but I will say I think Dorman or Blythewood, I think, is probably the odds-on favorite.
Well, Coach, we can't move on to the break until we've had, given you an opportunity to talk about the Spring Valley Vikings girls program. I know y'all have a new coach over there this year. Coach Assey has moved over to Carl Newman to kind of be a little closer to her family and, have more opportunities in her personal life to just, be more present as a mom, which is just another something that people don't oftentimes give enough credit to. Women coaches is a lot of times they are also raising a family, and we know how big moms are when it comes to our families. So tell us a little bit about the Vikings, the girls Vikings program this year.
Well, I'm excited about our girls basketball program. Now, obviously we hated to lose Coach Assey. She has been did a fantastic job for us, won a state championship not too terribly long ago. And I think she's one of the best basketball coaches we have in the state. But it was really cool that we're able to replace a really good coach with a really good young coach. Coach Megan Davis, was an assistant on our staff for a couple of years, and Coach Davis, played for the Vikings. I say back in the day. She's not that old, and I guess it depends on what you consider back in the day, but won a state championship with Coach Ann Long when she was at the coach. So, Coach Megan Davis, first of all, she blew us away in the interview. She was very well prepared. I wasn't surprised, but sometimes interviews, you just never know how those things go sometimes. But she was so well prepared that it was obvious to me that she was a great choice. Had to played for a legendary Hall of Fame coach in Coach Ann Long, won a state championship, and then had an opportunity to serve under another outstanding coach in Coach Assey, and also a teacher here at our school. It was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. We're excited about the enthusiasm that she's bringing. She's working really hard. I get to obviously watch them practice a little bit. I'm excited to see what they do. I mean, we did lose a fair amount of seniors last year, so we got some young people that they're going to need to figure some things out. And in a big conference, some difficult teams got to figure it out against likes of Blythewood, which is not going to be any easy task. But I'm excited to see Coach Davis grow as a young head coach and see what we do this year.
Well, as you and I we have a mutual friend, Coach Matt Quinn. I love what he says about he doesn't call them losing, he doesn't call it losing. It's learning opportunities. and we're looking at. I was actually reading a book about Willie Mays to my son. He's 6 years old, and I've gotten him into these like old historical baseball player books.
Okay.
And I was trying to teach him about batting averages, right? And in Willie Mays' first game as professional, he went 0 for 5. And he was like, well, Dad, that's not very good, is it? And I was like, no, it's not a very good night. But what I had to tell him is like, even the best players in the world lose more or fail more than they win. And so, that is something that, we often have to keep in mind. Like, for you to be good, you have to fail first. So,
there's no doubt about it. And, of course, every sport, high school sports, I hope people need to understand it is not all about the winning.
mm-hmm.
I mean, now, don't get me wrong. An athletic director says it's not all about the win. No, every time we play, it should be play to win. But we're here to develop young men, young women to be the best versions of themselves while trying to win every time we take the field, we take the court, take the track. But yeah, it's not all about the winning for sure. But, obviously we're trying to win every time we play.
Well, hey, it would be awfully boring if you won everything. Like, how boring would that be? I mean, nothing good in life is easy, right?
I'd like to try it for a little bit. I'd be okay with giving it. I'd give it. Anybody wants to try? I'd give it a whirl for a little bit.
That's right. All right. After the break, we're going to talk boys basketball in the state of South Carolina. Right after this quick break.
Football season. The Barn Dominium Company wants to help you build your dream home with your dream space to watch the games and entertain your friends and family. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com for floor plans, photo galleries, locations, and to learn more about us.
Oh man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process.
Welcome back to the 4 Quarter Friday show. And we just had a definite hiccup in the commercial run there. I don't know. I've never seen that happen before, actually. But hey, we still got a lot to talk about, Coach. So I'm going to say it was the Lord's will that we start talking boys basketball right away. Coach, let's start out with 1A again. 1A boys rankings. We got C.A. Johnson 1, Abbeville 2, Bethune-Bowman 3, Carvers Bay 4, Cross 5, Charleston Math and Science 6. Coach, I think that's in Charleston. And then 7, North, 8, Louisville, 9, McBee, and 10, Lamar. You know, there's a lot of traditional powers in there and a lot of great 1A programs. What would you tell us about these teams right here?
Well, I'll tell you, C.A. Johnson's getting a lot of publicity early on here. I mean, preseason number 1. Of course, we're going to find out, not too distant future on Thursday, December 11th. C.A. Johnson's taking on Ridgeview at the Bojangles Bash to kick the Bojangles Bash off there at Ridgeview High School. So I'll be very fascinated to see it. Coach Robert McCray, who's been there now, for a little bit, starting to build his program. I mean, he's got some really good players. I say at Germany, at C.A. Johnson, who's one of the top 5 seniors in 1A. I think they're really good. Of course, Abbeville has been solid the past couple of years there. They got Jaden Baylor, who is an outstanding player. Like, Tony Odom, also for C.A. Johnson, is a top 5 1A senior boys basketball player. So, those are some really good guys. I'm anxious to see C.A. Johnson this year because they've certainly got a lot of publicity and, see how they perform this year.
Yeah, and just checking in here, Denmark Olar won it last year. Where's Denmark Olar this year as a team? Did they lose a lot after last year's team?
Well, they did lose a lot. Coach Hercules Davis, who was their coach last year, won a state championship. retired. It was pretty good to retire. Isn't that pretty good to retire on a state championship run? That's a pretty good way to go out. By all accounts that they've lost a lot. But this is one of these things, when you get these rankings right here, I'm sure some of them are firing mad that they're not on there. And if they're not, it probably should be. I mean, if you're not on there and you just won a state championship, I know as a coach, I would be using that for motivation. And who knows, maybe the people doing these rankings got this thing all wrong. Of course, I've also seen this too, where sometimes coaches sandbag the teams they got. They don't want to be ranked high. They want to use that motivation. Say that, look at them, they didn't rank us high. And I was like, no, well, man, you're on the ratings board, so don't. Of course, they don't tell their players that all the time. Sometimes that happens from time to time, but hey, Denmark has always got basketball players, it seems, at least recently. So I certainly wouldn't count them out. But man, there's a lot of really good teams. Carver's Bay, led by Jeff Mezzatesta, who's been there for a long time. Bethune-Bowman, they're solid as well. They got a young man named Terrence McFadden, top 1A senior boy. So I mean, 1A basketball, I got a lot of people talking about C.A. Johnson, but there's any number of teams that can win that one as well.
Well, I was actually talking to a wrestling coach last week, and we were talking about the state, rankings and stuff. And he was telling me, and I'm not going to say which program, but he was telling me, he had to call the people who pushed out the final rankings, like, y'all got us way too high. So, there's a little Lou Holtz in every coach, I feel like, especially the ones at the top. You don't want to give your team too much confidence going in. You got some matches to win and some games to win. We got 2A boys, Coach. High Point Academy, Atlantic Collegiate, Andrew Jackson, Liberty, and Hampton County rounding out the top 5. Then we got Central, Chesney, Mullins, Batesburg, Leesville, and York Prep and Lake Marion are tied at 10. Coach, first, let's start at the bottom. Batesburg Leesville's got a beautiful new arena. The facilities that they have invested in over there, I know, have come at like a really opportune time for a lot of their athletics. As you've seen them do very, very well over the last year since they opened. But tell us a little bit about Batesburg Leesville. What kind of team do they got?
I'll tell you what, I've been real impressed. Coach Ash is one of their new coach. I say new, he's been there for a little while. That does a fantastic job. But they got a senior guy that's Taj Gillum, senior there at Batesburg Leesville. I think is really good. I mean, Batesburg Leesville, if I'm trying to be truthful, when I see them ranked 9th, they might be a little underrated at that point at the time. I could probably see them being up a little bit higher than that. But I will say this: High Point, Atlantic Collegiate, Andrew Jackson, Liberty, those 4 right there. And then even Hampton County. I don't know exactly what Hampton County's got this year, but I know those first 4 are both high-level teams. High Point Academy, they fell last year in the state championship game to Atlantic Collegiate in a solid game. High Point Academy was really good last year, and they're returning a lot of guys. They're High Point Academy's coach, Lee Sarter, who's also, he was Zion Williamson's coach back in the day. He's doing a really good job with that program. 2A boys basketball, like I'm anxious to see that one. Liberty, really good basketball team as well. They're ones that I think they've probably got a little chip on their shoulder. Like, probably don't get as much publicity as they deserve. I really like a lot of these matchups here in 2A. Chesney, they're really good as well. They got a young man, Eli Brown, who does a really good job. That's poised to have a really good year. Andrew Jackson, they just, Danny Wright is one of our board members, just year in and year out. They're always in the top 1 or 2 or 3 teams right there in the state. I mean, they could be in for a breakout year. And of course, Atlantic Collegiate is now led by Marion Busby. Marion Busby has got it played for, played back in the day at Eau Claire, played for George Glimp. So it's good to have him in our state and, taking over a former state championship team. So we'll see what kind of group that they have this year.
Yeah, and man, as far as 2A athletics goes in South Carolina High School League, man, I just love 2A. just the cult, the small towns, the way those small towns get out there and support their athletics it's awesome. Maybe they don't have as much to do, outside of the big city, so they get more involved in their community. So I don't know what it is, but I love football.
There's no doubt about that. One of the things I really like about the basketball state championships over the past couple of years, like some of the 2A games had our best crowds. Like the whole, like I said, the whole town, they come out. Andrew Jackson, I mean, their whole community, like there was a true community feel there. That's one thing that, Liberty, same way. Hampton County, when they were in it not too long ago, Chesney, baseball, those, you're right. There is something about 2A basketball with those small, I call them small town communities. When you get a good basketball game, it doesn't feel small. When a couple of good communities get together, that's something that's really important.
Hey, you go to a Strom Saluda game, you'll realize that you could probably rob every house in those towns right there. All right, 3A, Coach. We got Christchurch, Loris, Keenan, Fox Creek, and Oceanside Collegiate to round out the top 5, followed by Belton Honeypath at 6, Orangeburg Wilkinson at 7, North Charleston at 8, Union County and Powdersville finish up at 9 and 10. Who are you looking out for right now in 3A?
Well, I think
who's the underdog? Who's getting not enough credit right now?
I will tell you this. Now, I'm biased. I don't always like to say that I'm biased, but I'm going to say one that I'm biased. I did not even realize this till I just looked at it. 3A Georgetown. Georgetown not even the top 10 rankings. The reason I say I'm biased, they're led by one of my former players, Jordan Porti, played for me at Ridgeview High School. Now heading, I think he's getting into maybe 3rd year as the head basketball coach, and he does a really phenomenal job with his program. I mean, takes them a lot of different places, build them up the right way. As I'm sitting here looking at it, but I will also say there too, I'm looking at all these, man, there's some high level teams ahead of him. Christchurch is really good. I think Loris, Loris is really, really good. Coach Andrew Eads, they're phenomenal. They had when we did our SC live camps over the summer in June, and they played really good. And then of course you got Keenan. Keenan is, they're always in the mix. Every time you play Keenan, you're in for a big time basketball game. And Oceanside Collegiate, once again, we got them at number 5, and golly, they've been so good the past couple of years. Orangeburg. There's a lot of really good teams. So I'm almost even talking myself out who's underrated, overrated, because there's a lot of depth there in 3A basketball. I'm anxious to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, I am too. Powdersville, that's interesting. Powdersville High School has just done so well in athletics the last few years, and interesting to see where they're going to be at the end of the year. Christchurch and Loris, tell us how are these two teams made up? Do you know what's their style?
Coach John Butler at Christchurch. He's been there for a while. One of his sons, playing at the University of South Carolina. One's playing professional basketball. It's a private school up in Greenville, so they've got a good mix. Jonathan Perry is one of the top 3A seniors that plays for Christchurch. He's a really good player. That it's always fun to watch some of these teams play. From year to year, they could be a little bit different. Loris is led by Khalid Sherman, one of the 3A top seniors. I think he is a really good basketball player. Loris is very athletic, but still very well coached. Coach Butler's been around the block. Those are two really good ones. That would be a fun game to get a chance to see them play. And then, like I said, I didn't mention Keenan there. If you throw in there what they've got, so there's a lot of contrasting styles in there with that.
Well, Coach, why don't we go to a quick break? We got to get some more of our sponsors presented across this episode, and especially since our first one didn't get bumped off all that successfully. So let's go to a quick break, and when we get back, we'll finish up with 4A and 5A rankings for the state of South Carolina high school boys basketball season. All right.
Palm Casual Outdoor Patio Furniture proudly supports high school athletics across South Carolina. If it's time to make your outdoor space the best it can be, with lifetime warranties and guarantees, visit one of our Palm Casual stores in Myrtle Beach, Bluffton, Somerville, or Mount Pleasant. PalmCasual.com. PalmCasual.com. Turn on the lights. It's Friday night.
At Moultrie Insurance, our agents are working for you. Our commercial lines of coverage are well-sourced and intimately chosen. We offer commercial lines of coverage such as business owners, umbrella, property, auto, or general liability coverage, and evaluate every option to find what fits you best. Like a good offensive coordinator, we will draw up the plays, but only run with what you feel comfortable. Get in touch with our quarterback, Perry Orth, or our head coach, Frank, by visiting MoultrieINS.com. MoultrieINS.com.
Morning, Carl. Usual?
Yeah.
Your oldest was in here the other day. Said the two of you took a trip down to my neck of the woods. How'd that go?
You might as well give me one of those Carolina cars while you're at it.
I knew I liked that one.
Yeah.
There you go, my friend.
Thanks.
Hey, Carl. Congratulations.
See you tomorrow, Freddie.
You bet.
Welcome to Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions. Basement crawl space encapsulation designed for your specific needs. Your crawl space can be susceptible to all sorts of issues, including moisture buildup, mold growth, and structural damage if not cared for properly. Let our trained experts provide basement crawl space encapsulation solutions to protect your home, improve air quality, and enhance energy efficiency. Schedule your consultation today for a safer, healthier space at dryspacecs.com.
Do your wood floors need a touch-up? Visit recoatrevolution.com in South Carolina today. Welcome back to Four Quarter Friday, part of the Chief Sports Network. Let's talk ball.
Welcome back to the Fourth Quarter Friday show, our State of South Carolina basketball preview show as we start wrapping up football this month into the first week of December. We're starting to talk about basketball now as well as we start games this Friday. Coach, we have a few more rankings to get into, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the big tournaments that are going to be happening really soon. Coach, we're at the 4A for boys right now, and we got a top 10 of Wilson, North Augusta, Gray Collegiate, South Point, Lancaster, Seneca, Fountain Inn, Brooklyn Casey, Wren, and Bluffton for our top 10. Who's being left out of the top 10 in 4A right now that has a good chance of getting in there soon?
Oh, goodness. I mean, that top 10 right there is that's a strong group that they've got in there in 4A. I mean, 4A last year was a lot of fun to watch. You know, Lancaster High School, won that in 4A. They were loaded last year. I mean, you don't have teams in there, like AC Flora is not listed in the top 10 right there. You've got Crestwood. I mean, I didn't see Crestwood in there. They've had some really good, players recently. Then you've got, teams like Midland Valley. I don't know what they're supposed to have this year. Aiken's been good in the past. So, I mean, there's always some teams that can, jump up and get you. And also, I'm sitting there looking at it too. There's Lower Richland's not in there. Mm-hmm. So there's Coach JoJo English does Lower Richland, always does a really good job. And I know he'll certainly use that as strong motivation for his young men to try to make a run in 4A.
Who's the coach at Wilson now?
Yusef English, Coach Yusef English. He's going into, I think, second, third year. I'm getting old now. These years all run together. He does a good job, works really hard. And, he was at Hartsville High School years ago.
Yeah.
So he's got a target on his back. I mean, 4A is brutal, but he's got a really good team. I mean, Wilson's led by Josh Leonard, probably one of the highest ranked players we have in the state of South Carolina, who's really good. One of our 5 elite players that we have by the SCBCA. So that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good player to have anchor your team at the number 1 spot.
As far as the elite players, Coach, that we've gotten selected, where are they right now looking at going to in college? Do some of them already have their destinations picked out?
I believe some of them, like B.J. Brown, just recently committed. I can't remember off the top. B.J. Brown's at Sumter.
Mm-hmm.
He's recently committed. I'm not real sure. Colt Fowler, at Burns, one of our elite players, who I think is one of our, he's such a fun player to watch. Caden Brown at Greenville. We've got Levi Ball, from Gray. And I'm not exactly sure what's been the latest update on Josh Leonard's recruitment, but I know he's one that he's had a lot of Power 5 interest on him.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about Wren, Coach. I say it all the time as a Lexington grad. Maybe that's where my bias comes in. The school colors are from Wren, but it's got one of the most unique mascots or nicknames, right? They're the Hurricanes, and they're in Greenville, Anderson area, right? Tell us a little bit about the team over at Wren High School this year.
Well, Wren, they're starting over. Got a new head coach that's out there, Daryl Jackson. They were led for a long time by Fran Campbell, who was a Hall of Fame SCBCA coach. So they're on the newer side of their trajectory of starting a new program, and maybe not. They may be angry at me saying a new program. I mean, they might be like, "Hey, we're just continuing on what we're doing." And I know, Wren certainly. Once again, that's another team that if you were looking at your brackets, you didn't want to ever play Wren High School in the playoffs because you knew you were in for a tough night.
Yeah, they've one of the legendary coaches for sure. I've heard a good friend of mine, Daniel Gosnell, has talked about Coach Fran a lot over the years and the program they've run for a long, long time. He sent a lot of players to play college basketball as well. And North Augusta, I have to highlight them a little bit too because of their arena. Man, I was over there a couple weeks ago. That arena is just so neat. I mean, one of the best. The facilities that they got over there at North Augusta is incredible. And I'm just a huge facilities nerd. I went to school at University of South Carolina and majored in sport management with a focus on facilities management. So I'm a huge facility nerd, which, speaking of facilities, the arena at Spring Valley and the football stadium at Spring Valley with the track around it, y'all got some of the best. I mean, there's a good reason y'all have state championships and meets there all the time.
Hey, absolutely. We can do a whole podcast episode on facilities, and you want to speak about facilities. That hat that you're wearing, the Tree Farm hat. You want to talk about golf facilities and different things right there. That's one of the best in the business right there. So I won't digress too much, but we are very blessed and fortunate here at Spring Valley. Like, hey, I'm still wanting to figure out how can we get the state football championships here at Harry Perone Stadium. Both sides are about the equally size. You got our arches. We just got a brand new jumbotron put up in our stadium, so we're right there. And of course, I love our basketball arena. I didn't like it when I was the basketball coach at Ridgeview High School for a couple of years because there was some difficult matchups there. But yeah, facilities wise, North Augusta is outstanding. It's one of the newer facilities in our state. That is tremendous. Coach Tony Harrell there, I'd consider him a friend, coaching colleague. He's one of the best in the business. I mean, it certainly would not surprise me at all at the end of the year that North Augusta wins the state championship. They love their basketball there. I mean, they do. They love their athletics. They're led by, Jordan Rouse is a senior who's really good. Quamarian Webb is also another senior. I mean, when you got 2 top 5 seniors in 4A, that's a pretty strong indication you're pretty good. Of course, Wilson has got an elite player and also another top 5 senior in KJ Allen. So those are pretty good indications. Those 2 teams will be battling it out for sure.
Yeah. Hey, as far as your idea with state football championships being at Harry Perone, sign me up. All right. Hey, Orangeburg is just a little bit further away that I would care for. I mean, I love just driving across town, but it's still a great place. But daggum, if you didn't hit the nail square on the head, having an environment where the entire stadium is filled would be electric. And I think that's what playoff football should be for every single game.
Well, at some point in time, I'm in year 3 now as an athletic director. I'm trying to understand how everything works. I will certainly be more than happy at some point to put together a proposal to try to bring it here to Spring Valley High School, because we think we have a really good stadium that would provide equal fans for both sides. It's not, it's one of the larger stadiums, but it's not so cavernous and big. We'd have to figure some things out, but we'd certainly love to have it.
I say it all the time. Put me a high school stadium in a little bit of a hole, that bowl, you create that noise amplification. I just love it. I love it. 5A now, Coach. 5A Division II. We have Greenville, Fort Mill, Goose Creek, Riverside, T.L. Hanna, Westwood, St. James, Irmo, Conway, and Berkeley. Coach, I do know I was over there over the summer, and Berkeley lost one of their key players to an injury for the season, which was really unfortunate. Hated for him. I think he was a senior, but they're still highly ranked, so that means they got a lot of pieces, and hopefully can kind of lift him up as well throughout the year, because I know he's still part of that program. But tell us a little bit about 5A Division II, these teams in the top 10.
Man, these are some outstanding teams here. I mean, I think it's pretty interesting. You got Greenville right off the top, preseason number 1. I mean, they lost their head coach. I just say lost their head coach, is now their athletic director, Mike Anderson, who won a state championship last year, and probably the best state championship game of all of them between Greenville and Goose Creek. Of course, would they replace it? They replaced the guy who just won a state championship with the guy that won multiple state championships, and Yerrick Stoneman coming over from Oak Hill Academy, who was at Ridgeview High School. I mean, they've got a lot of talent there at Greenville High School. I think one of their better players, I think he's going to enroll early. He was a football guy that's enrolling early to play college football, but they're still very, very deep and loaded. Fort Mill is outstanding as well. Goose Creek, I mean, they've got some really good players. And then, the team that I last came from, Westwood High School, is they got a group of seniors that are really good, led by Trent Robinson. Once again, another guy that played for me back in the day. You got Irmo at number 8, St. James. I mean, there's really talent there. Berkeley High School, the young man that you referenced, Damian Kinlock, whose dad played at the University of South Carolina. His dad was there when I was there. So I'm feeling really old now that some of these guys that we're on the same teams with now, they got kids playing high level basketball. And of course, they say Damian's out for the year, but there's part of me, I keep hearing every once in a while, maybe he could come back towards the end of the year.
What happened? What was it? Knee?
I'm not 100% sure if it was knee or ACL or exactly what it was. I never put anything past anybody, or not anybody, but everybody heals differently.
Yeah.
It's some people it clicks, some people it doesn't. Goose Creek's led by Jaquel Brown, top 5 senior that I think is really, really good. T.L. Hanna's got a good big man, Lucas Weiserma. In Riverside, I probably can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to try to embarrass myself, but I saw him over the summer. He's really good. And then Fort Mill has Wallace Campbell, top 5 2A Division II senior that I think is really good. I mean, there's some good coaches, good teams there in 5A and Division II. It would be hard to bet against Greenville, but hey, Fort Mill's certainly going to have something to say about it. I know Goose Creek, like I said, they were so close to winning last year. That was such a good game last year. Goose Creek and Greenville in the 5A Division II state championship. That'll be interesting to see what happens this year.
Now, to finish things off, we got 5A Division I. Last but not least, right? Ridgeview at number 1, Burns number 2, Dorman at 3, Dutch Fork at 4, James Island at 5, Sumter at 6, Malden, Cane Bay, and Ashley Ridge and Clover finish out the top 10. Coach, it's not surprising to see, Ridgeview there at number 1. They won it last year. They're led by coach over there that he was at AC Flora. Gosh, the name is escaping me right now.
Josh Staley.
Josh Staley, thank you. Staley, you should never think about Coach Staley. Forget about him. He does a great job over there with those kids. And what's Ridgeview built like this year? Are they usually have a lot of length?
Oh, they do. They're extremely athletic. I mean, now Coach Staley, they did lose one of their best players to Oak Hill Academy this past year, but they had another young man that transferred out, but they're loaded. They've got players upon players that are really good. I mean, they're senior, and this is what makes me feel, once again, I've said that way too much now. Talon Staley over at Ridgeview, Coach Staley's son. I mean, I still remember him when he was young and little, but now he's at as a senior, a 5A Division I, state championship team. It does a really good job. I mean, I tell you what, they're really good. Burns High School, I mean, gosh, they're outstanding, led by Colt Fowler. I mean, his dad, Lane, is the head basketball coach there. His mom, Missy Fowler, is the head basketball coach on the girls' side there at Burns High School. So there's a lot of good basketball that runs in that family. I mean, Colt might be one of the, he was maybe one of my favorite players to watch over the summer, like hard nose, like, and then it almost feels like, okay, Dorman at number 3. I was like, wow, why is Dorman number 3? Many times they're winning it, but they're right there. They are so good. Coach Thomas Ryan, certainly one of our best coaches we've had in our state for the past number of years. And then you got hey, another Lexington guy at number 4, Brett Jones at Dutch Fork High School.
Yeah,
his
that
team,
Bailey Harris coaching tree right there.
That's a deep coaching tree right there. He's got a guy that I think's just been playing really good basketball, Justice Bell, for them. That I think is really outstanding. One of the tough things that some of these guys have got, the challenge is some of their football teams are still playing at a high level. I know Brett's missing some guys from basketball still. I mean, you probably got to believe Dutch Fork could be playing a couple more weeks, so it might be a couple more weeks before they get all their players back. I mean, that's why the rankings and records early on, man, those things, I don't want to say they don't mean anything, but sometimes it's hard to tell. Like a win against Dutch Fork early when they're missing their football players doesn't carry the same weight as a win against Dutch Fork later on in region play when they have everybody. But some of these times are also great opportunities for some of these younger kids that you didn't think were going to be in the mix. Hey, they now got to be in the mix because they're missing some teammates. But I tell you what, Division I, 5A, I mean, I'm excited to see it. Like, I really am. I think Ridgeview, Burns, Dorman, Dutch Fork, and James Island, I feel like I'm slighting them by not talking about them. I think they've been really, really good the past couple of years. Sumter, led by B.J. Brown. I mean, their dad coaches the team there. Malden, right there. They're in the mix. Ashley Ridge. I mean, they've outstanding. Clover. I mean, there's a lot of good depth in 5A Division I.
And I'm glad you mentioned this, Coach, because some schools, they don't have as many dual sports athletes as they used to. You having more and more kids now specialize in either football or basketball or baseball, and you are seeing less guys who are both dual sports in basketball and football. But there's still some schools that do stress that and do have kids that really want to play both and are going deep runs in football right now. And, some of these teams are going to take their lumps early on because of them missing their football guys, for sure. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, and then you got, especially if they're seniors and they're good and they're playing in a Shrine Bowl or North-South game. I mean, I still remember I took an absolute beating against Irmo. We played them on a Saturday night, and I had, Brian Quick, who was a Shrine Bowl player, ended up playing at App State and was a second-round NFL draft pick. Then Brandon King was a wide receiver. He had to report North-South game. I mean, we lost by Irmo by 40 points when I was missing, 2 starters. The next time around, we actually did beat them with them. So that's why sometimes, these games, I don't want to say it can be misleading, but, when you don't have all of your guys there, that certainly can hurt. But it's, that's part of the game. I mean, that's part of the way basketball is in our state, and especially if you lean on, talent from football. Didn't seem to hurt Gaffney too much. They had a lot of really good basketball players that also played football, and they were able to figure it out. So it's it might hurt your early season record, especially if you're playing some high level teams. I mean, like I said, I played in the past when I've had a lot of football players that also played basketball. I entered some preseason tournaments. I took a few lumps in. I still remember one from Thomas Ryan when he was at Aiken, when I was at Ridgeview, played preseason, but that's the way that happens. But it's also growth opportunities for those kids, for other people who have an opportunity to play.
I was at Greenwood last Friday night to watch Gaffney and Greenwood play on the gridiron, and I was speaking with Coach, the basketball coach. You're going to have to remind me his name. I wrote it down, but I don't have that notebook with me. But he was pointing out all his players that are still playing, and I think he had four kids that are playing football. So he's probably going to want to give them a little bit of a break, rest up a little bit after a long football season, and then get them into basketball shape moving forward. But Coach, man, thank you for joining. Now, before we go, there's some big tournaments coming up. I know the Bojangles Bash, which is hosted at Ridgeview, is just one of the biggest tournaments in the Southeast, heck the country. I know they're very excited for that, and that's an athletic-wide fundraiser for their school, and it doesn't just go to basketball. And I want to try to be there for that, but it is the same weekend as North-South, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go or not. But what other tournaments are going on that we need to keep aware of around the state?
Well, I mean, our state does have plenty of them. And, the one thing that I really like, a rule that was recently changed, like we can, not everything has to be a tournament. You can have showcases, one-day events. And one of the things I really like, and we can now start earlier, too. One of the things I think is, this coming Saturday at Dreher High School, I mean, there's 3 high-level basketball games. It starts off at 2:00, Dreher, versus Ben Lippen. I mean, Ben Lippen's got some good players. And then, I mean, it took me a while to remember this, but at 4:00, Lancaster and Wilson are playing each other at Dreher High School on Saturday. That's a high-level event. They're calling it. And then the nightcap, the 6:00 nightcap, is Grade versus Ridgeview High School. And they're calling that the showdown in the Shandon. So, I mean, and those are
all right.
Those are 3 really good games. Greenville High School always has a really good one, and I can't remember, it's escaping me. That's during the Christmas time. They always have a really good one. Then you got the Beach Ball Classic that's out there. We did lose the Chick-fil-A Classic. We don't have that one anymore, but there's still a lot of really good events. And I want to encourage people, please go out and go support these teams. Go support these events. I mean, there's some, a lot of times these are big fundraisers, not only for the basketball program, as you mentioned, but the entire athletic department. And sometimes not even just the athletic department. It could be student activities. It can be, the cheerleaders. One of the things I've realized too, athletic departments, we need as much money as we possibly get. I mean, a lot of times, a big portion of our, funding that we're able to get kids some stuff and pay for different things come from, these special events. And you don't have events like the Bojangles Bash if people don't show up. I mean, and I will tell people that was December 11th through the 13th at Ridgeview High School. I mean, Coach Brian Rosefield, who's the AD, was one of our assistant coaches when I was there, does a phenomenal job. I mean, there isn't just good talent for the state. There's great talent across the whole nation that is there. I mean, I remember just having some phenomenal times, competing in that event, seeing some really good players. So I'd like to encourage people to go out to some of these events. And even if it isn't a super big name, event, if you hear about your high school having one, go out and support it. It would mean a lot to them. And it's a great opportunity to see a bunch of different teams play in one day. That's the one thing I love about high school basketball. In football, they typically don't have that. They don't have tournaments where you're playing multiple teams in the same stadium in one night. In basketball, sometimes you could see 8 to 16 different teams in one day and pay just one fee. Sit down and watch a lot of really good basketball. One of the funny stories I had about when I played coaching at the Chick-fil-A Classic when I was at Ridgeview. We were warming up. I can't remember who we were about to play. One of my assistants tapped me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, coach, you need to see who's here behind the bench." And I was like, "Man, I don't care who's behind the bench." I was like, "I don't care about that." And I said, "No, coach, you need to look at this." I told him, "I don't look." I turned around and looked, and probably about 5 feet away was Mike Krzyzewski. sitting right there. The funny part about it was he was only there because he watched the game before ours. Right as the game tipped off, he was out the door. But, it's still, when you see these high-level events, you can see some high-level coaches and even personalities at a Bojangles Bash or, some of these other events where some of our high-level players are at. And so I just really like to encourage people to go out and support high school hoops here in South Carolina.
Hey, there's one thing that college coaches don't sleep on. They don't sleep on high school kids in South Carolina because those blue bloods are coming into South Carolina a lot and trying to get them to go to their schools. Just for some reason, Raymond Felton came to my mind, from, I think it was Latta, right,
Yeah,
Coach?
absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that they North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, all those big schools know about South Carolina kids in basketball. So get out and watch some of these tournaments, especially over the holidays when you don't have as much going on. Maybe you can get off work a little bit more than you could in other times of the year. And heck, if you're tired of watching the Gamecocks right now play football, then get out to Drew High School on Saturday and watch this showcase.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very affordable. I don't know what I know they're not charging anything crazy, but it's a great opportunity to, see high level basketball. And I'm sure just, go on social media, go on Twitter, go find a game. There'll be some outstanding, games over the next couple of weeks. And, the early season matchups are always a lot of fun. That's the one thing I like too is, you can see it. Football, you don't get a whole lot of 5A teams playing a 1A team in football, but in basketball, you can get some of that sometimes. You can get, coaches are willing to play out of their classification, and sometimes they may not want to, but that's who they get matched up in some of these events. I still remember Raymond Felton at Beach Ball Classic and some of these high-level events. Latta can't compete with a DeMatha or some of these national powers. They did when Raymond Felton was there. And so there's just some really good opportunities there. And I encourage people, just like I said, go out and go watch some high school basketball.
That's what's great about basketball, right, Coach? You get, both teams had to put only 5 on the floor. And when you get these early season matchups, 1A versus 5A or 2A versus 4A, anything can happen. And you get to see some great play on a court, and the environment's a little more intimate, and you get some of those special nights inside of those arenas. So, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We're just talking about previewing right now. I mean, we're about to kick off, and we're going to start having games and results to start digging into, start talking about more players on an individual basis, and we're going to have you on again sometime soon.
Hey, love to. There's so much great to talk about. Like I know as soon as I hang up and we get done here, I'm gonna man, I should have talked about that player, this team. We didn't even scratch talking about the state championships are going to be back at Colonial Life Arena this year, which I am super excited about that opportunity. That was one thing the high school league and the executive committee we got right. There's some challenges with that, but having that opportunity to be back at the CLA, I think that is something very special to all these teams. That's what you want to do. I mean, back when I was growing up, it was all about going to the Carolina Coliseum, making that. Now it was a CLA, and we got away. COVID kind of did a number on us for a little bit, but I'm glad that we have that back. So there's so much to talk about during this basketball season.
Well, that's huge. Thanks for dropping that announcement. Well, Coach, thank you again. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Y'all take care.
All right, and that's the season preview for South Carolina high school basketball on the 4-Quarter Friday show. More to come. We'll be talking wrestling as well, and of course, we're not done with football, so tune in to us live on Friday morning, which I believe, Coach, that's going to be tomorrow. So we're coming up quick. So anyways, take care. This is the 4-Quarter Friday show. Follow us on Twitter. We're now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Of course, we have our YouTube channel, and support these teams and these kids as they get into their basketball season. See you later.
From the Low Country to the Upstate, from the Midlands to the PD, we've got you covered. This is our state. South Carolina matters to us. All of South Carolina. We love talking ball. And we love talking ball with you. Thank you for tuning in to the 4-Quarter Friday High School Show. Every Friday at 9 a.m. on the Chief Sports Network. Now, back to Justin and Steve.
For the glory of a 4-Quarter Friday.